the European continent. We're going back now. I think we have the live feed back to the White House. Is Trump with Meloni.
Quello che rivela il fatto che insieme vogliamo.
We've got some gremlins on that connection. Just to recap, Giorgia Meloni, of course, a European leader, but Italy very much in the European Union. Donald Trump has been very outspoken in his brazen contempt for the EU, saying that the EU has raped America. The mafia set up specifically to damage and cause harm to the United States. Giorgia Meloni, in that sense, the first into the bear pit as a European Union leader. She started off by inviting Donald Trump to visit Rome, and he said that I'd be delighted to do that very soon. She coined a bit of Trumpism herself when she said, my mission is to make the West great again. So perhaps positioning herself as a spiritual de facto leader of the European Union. Of course, Macron has been there, Keir Starmer has been there. And on the grand scheme of things, these things always go the same way. It's like, who gets the worst punishment and who comes out of it best? Of course, Volodymyr Zelensky at one end of the spectrum, and the El Salvadorian president a couple of days ago very much bowing down to Donald Trump. On the topic of Ukraine, Giorgia Meloni said, together we've been defending Ukraine. Together we can build a lasting peace. We can support your efforts. So very much, Alana, we've got some live pictures from that meeting. Do we have a sound patch?
Wait. I will do that. They've been asking if we decided another percentage about the defense spendings, and I said yes, NATO. And I said that Italy is reaching the 2% as it was already decided. We didn't speak about a specific other percentage, but we are aware of the fact that defense is important for the future, and we see what also the work that we are trying to do at the European level.
And I don't hold Zelensky responsible, no. But I'm not exactly thrilled with the fact that that war started. That was a war that would have never started if I were president. You'd have millions of people living right now that are dead. You'd have cities that would be open and thriving, and they'd have their beautiful turrets. Those turrets are the most beautiful in the world. But they're not with us any longer. They're smashed to smithereens, laying on the ground in a million pieces, getting hit by rockets, bombs, and bullets. And so I'm not happy with him, and I'm not happy with anybody involved. I think it's a war. I know it's a war. It didn't happen for 4 years. It was never close to happening. It was never even a thought. And I spoke to President Putin about it a lot. It was the apple of his eye, but there's no way he would have ever gone in if I were president. Now I'm trying to get him to stop because, as you know, Russia's a lot bigger. It's a bigger military force. And if you're smart, you don't go involved and get involved in wars that you can blame the man that was sitting in this seat, Biden. He didn't know what the hell was going on. But I can guarantee you that, and everybody agrees to it, if I were president, that war would have never taken place. I'm not blaming him. But what I am saying is that I wouldn't say he's done the greatest job, okay? I'm not a big fan. I really am. I'm not a big fan.
Go ahead. Presidente Meloni, avete discusso di Cina, della possibilità che l'Europa ponga dei dazi, diciamo, sulla Cina. Mr. President, are you sure about the definition of parasite of European? Would you say again that European are parasites?
He's never said.
Would you say again that Europeans are parasites?
Have you said that Europeans are parasites?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't said. I don't know what. I don't even know what you're talking about. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. No, wait. Next. Go.
Thank you. Prime Minister Meloni just said we want to make Europe great again, and we want to do it together with the United
Sure. West, yeah.
Did you? I guess that's what you said, Mr. Prime Minister. How are you going to do that? And are you looking to do it to counter China, who is really trying to gather influence against the United States with the help of this joint agreement?
I hope that Europe is going to be great again. Europe is going through a lot of problems, and a lot of it's having to do with immigration. And I'm not a big fan of Europe and what they've done with immigration at all. And I think they got to get smart, because Europe is being very badly hurt by what they've done with immigration. Now, I'll say this, that the Prime Minister has taken a very tough stand on immigration. And I commented to her before. I said, I wish more people would be like you having to do with that subject, but they're not. Europe is very important to me. Europe is very important to the world. I want Europe to do very well. I think they have to get a lot smarter on immigration.
But we are beginning doing it. You've all seen how the policies of the European Union in the last, let's say, 2.5 years have been changing. Okay, at the beginning we were talking only about how we were redistributing illegal migrants coming to Italy. Now we are talking mainly about how to stop illegal migration, work with the countries of origin and transit, and to return people. The European Commission just did the new rules about repatriations and things like that. So things are changing, thanks also to the example that Italy brought in lowering the rates of illegal migration. So we are working now together, so I'm optimistic on that.
Good. I hope so. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I would like to ask President Meloni if you have discussed the option of expanding the deal with Italy on satellite communications, and to President Trump, if you want to see the Google company growing up.
The Google what?
The Google company.
What about
Google
it?
business. Yeah. You want to see it growing up, separated.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, well, we didn't discuss about Starlink. We've been discussing about defense space, where we will work together also in the Mars missions. So there are big things to do together, but we didn't discuss it.
The Prime Minister that changed your mind potentially about tariffs and what you plan to do going forward?
No.
Is there anything the Prime Minister said to you that changed your perspective?
No, tariffs are making us rich. We were losing a lot of money under Biden, trillions of dollars, trillions on trade. And now that whole tide has turned. We're making a lot of money. We're taking in a lot of money. Don't forget, we're taking in 25% on cars, 25% on steel, 25% on aluminum, 10% baseline. We put penalties on China for sending us fentanyl. We put penalties on Mexico and Canada, 25% for allowing fentanyl and allowing the borders to be weak. No, we're taking in billions and billions of dollars while I sit here and talk to you. And we didn't take in anything before, other than the tariffs that I put on previous to Biden, which were the tariffs I put on China, where we took in, up until this point, probably $700 billion. They were Trump tariffs. He tried to weaken them. He did everything he could. You know, he got paid money by China, right? The family got paid money. He did. And so I don't know, maybe that was the reason, or maybe it wasn't, but he tried to weaken them, but he couldn't, because there was so much money that his budgets, you know, they couldn't stand not doing it. But I took in up till this point, my tariffs on China. Nobody ever took in 10 cents from China. No other president took in 10 cents. I took in more than $700 billion from China. So we're doing very well. I mean, our country's doing very well. They had a bad report today from one of the healthcare companies that had an impact on the stock market, but this isn't about that. This is really, we're building a base. We're building a country like no other. And again, I had the strongest economy in the history of our country by far, history of any country probably, but the history of our country in 4 years. And I think this has a chance to be much better.
At the White House with Ukraine on Thursday. Will President Zelensky be coming here for that?
I don't know exactly. I'm going to leave that to Scott. What do you think? Where would it be signed and when?
Yeah, we're still working on the details. We're shooting for around April 26th.
Is there any more details that you could tell us about what's in that deal and how it came together?
It's substantially what we agreed on previously. When the president was here, we had a memorandum of understanding. We went straight to the big deal. And I think it's an 80-page agreement, and that's what will be signed.
President Trump's if he doesn't change his stance on rate cuts? Or is that on the table? Or is that
well, I think he should do the rate cuts because I think if Europe has done it, it puts us at a disadvantage to Europe. I mean, he plays right into their hands. So I think he should do the rate cuts. We don't have really inflation now. I just said the major things are going down. Oil is great. Oil is way ahead of schedule. And that's because of our policies. But oil is down into the $60, $65 range now per barrel. And I told you, in certain states we have less than $2 for gasoline. And food is down. Groceries, as we call it, are down. Other than interest rates, everything's down. Interest rates are pretty flat. They're not. It's not that they're up, but we should be better than flat. We should, if he would lower the interest rate, I think it would have a good impact on that too. But the costs are down. We have very little inflation. I would say we have essentially no inflation. Hard to have inflation when oil goes down, and oil goes down. When Biden came in, oil went through the roof. That's what caused our problem. That and his very dumb spending. But when the oil prices go down, and they have gone down a lot, we've gotten it down really good. We've opened it up and we've gotten them down. And that means that people driving cars are going to be paying $2 and $2.50 instead of $4.50. And, you know, even at the end, they tried just for the purpose of the election to get it down. But they had really lost that sucker. That was really, it was not good. But if they had won, oil right now would be at $7 or $8 because of their policy. And we're going to be at about $2. Could be even a little bit less than that. And you're starting to see it. So I don't know how you can have inflation when oil has come down quite a bit. And I would say the Fed really owes it to the American people to get interest rates down. That's the only thing he's good for. And he would have an effect on that if he lowered them. And I think at some point he will. He's going to have a lot of political pressure. You know, they are political also. And I think there's a lot of political pressure for him to lower interest rates. Yeah? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Please.
Do you think that Italy can be your best ally in Europe? And also, do you ever notice when you walk if you step on ants?
Only if the Prime Minister remains the Prime Minister can it be our best. She's doing a great job. And yeah, certainly one of our great allies, not just in Europe, anywhere. She's a fantastic person and doing a great job. And our relationship is great. And we have a lot of Italians in this country, I tell you, and they like Trump, and they voted for Trump. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, and that was President Donald Trump there with the Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni in the Oval Office there, the last in a long line now of world leaders who faced the music. I think she got away through that pretty unscathed. Let's go through some of the top lines there. She said at the start, together we can build a lasting peace in the continent of Europe. She said, my mission is to make the West great again. I think a lot of people, though, who were expecting Giorgia Meloni to be something of an EU rebel might be disappointed when specifically talking about immigration. Donald Trump said, I'm not a big fan of Europe and what they've done on immigration. The Prime Minister has taken a tough stance on immigration, talking about Giorgia Meloni. And Meloni said, we are getting stronger on it now. Well, the figures don't support that. We are talking more now and talking about returning and repatriation. That's only because the European Union has been forced into this position. It's fair to say that Italy was an outlier in taking a tough stance first. In fact, if you recall, they were turning away ships coming from the Mediterranean, from Libya, from Tunisia, and making them land in France. France initially refused to cooperate. We've been talking, and I'm optimistic that things are going to get better. On NATO spending, they were specifically asked about this because, of course, Donald Trump was expected at any moment to say, hey, everybody in the European Union, everybody in Europe, every NATO member needs to pay 2.5% GDP, perhaps even more. Could be 3, could be 5. You simply don't know with Donald Trump. Giorgia Meloni Meloni said we are reaching NATO spending targets. But a quick fact check on that tells us, actually, Italy spends just 1.6% of its GDP at the moment. Let's get some reaction now from my glorious panel here on GBN Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. I'm joined by the former Conservative advisor, Lauren McAvett, and also the Labour Party activist, Chris Worrell. Welcome to the show. Lauren, let's start with you. What are your takeaways there from Donald Trump's speech with Giorgia Meloni?
I think it's very interesting that she spent a lot of time talking about the European space programme. The European space programme with the United States going to Mars. EU Space has had a long-standing history of working with the United States space programme in the Mars programmes in the past. The little rover, the camera was all EU and it was all in Toulouse. So I think that indicates that the European Union very much sent her with a, look, European space is somewhere where we do business with the US. We want to continue doing business with the US. One of the things that's come out of the last several weeks is obviously the United States wanting the EU to spend more on defence. The EU turned around and said, OK, well, we will, and we're going to start investing in Thales, and we're going to start buying Airbus. And the United States said, well, no, we didn't mean that. We didn't mean that you could be protectionist against Lockheed Martin and Boeing, which is a bit rich coming from some of their actions recently. But from the reporting on Reuters earlier today, it seems that Italy will hit the 2% NATO target later this year.
The target's higher than 2%. The target's like 2.5 GDP, and it could move.
No, the target is currently still 2, I think.
No, it's not. The target could be significantly higher than that. Giorgia Meloni can go there and say we're reaching the target. They're not currently spending that target, and they haven't spent the target for absolutely decades. That's the entire point.
I don't think Italy has actually ever spent the target for NATO.
There we go.
But they are working towards doing better at this. I think that's the point of her trying to say that. I think the EU are trying to tell Donald Trump and the United States that they're going to start pulling the weight more than they have been previously.
Do you believe that?
I think they're going to try.
Well, they're going to have to try. Otherwise, they're going to be slapped with massive, probably harder tariffs.
Well, no, Germany has been
freeloading off the United States for decades.
Well, the tariffs aren't directly related to defence. They're related to the fact that Donald Trump doesn't like VAT.
He can do whatever he wants. He might say, if you don't hit my tariffs, then I'm going to whack you with NATO dues. You just don't know.
Well, he can't whack anyone with NATO dues. He's not in charge of NATO. NATO's a collective.
He could do anything he wants on NATO. He could say... You don't think this guy's the most unpredictable politician on the planet?
He is the most unpredictable, but that doesn't mean there aren't repercussions for him doing so. NATO could throw him out.
NATO would not throw... Why on earth would NATO throw America out? It's the biggest funder of NATO has been since the beginning of its inception.
Within how NATO functions, NATO is entitled to eject its members.
If you believe in that, you must believe in Santa.
No, within the rules, it's theoretically possible. Whether or not they do it or not is completely separate, but it is within the rules that they can eject members.
You don't actually believe that?
No, of course I don't believe it, but you cannot say, oh, he can do whatever he wants in NATO without discussion. No, he can't. There are rules-based organisations, and they cannot allow that to happen.
Do you think this guy cares about the rules?
No, but NATO
Do you think this guy cares about the rules? The rules that haven't worked for America for decades?
Of course he doesn't. But the rules not working for the United States are not the reason why the Fed chair is failing to cut interest rates. It's because they're going to have an inflationary bubble because of what Donald Trump is doing on the economy.
Chris Worrell.
Well, look, I mean, I do think Donald Trump is a bit more predictable than people think, right? We're talking about how they're going to get Russia to the table. And, you know, talk there about the government, you know, I think they're on course to get $1.4 trillion from these tariffs. So that's after the economic hit. And you know, how's that affecting things? Well, what's interesting is obviously he's creating this sort of suppression on the demand in the economy. All prices are dropping. If they go below $60, that's Russia up. What's it, creek? And we're seeing JP Morgan forecasting that now. So I think that, you know, that's despite the reduced imports, the retaliations and slower growth. And 90% of these costs will be borne by the US consumer. But I think he's doing something quite clever here. And, you know, we can thank Keir Starmer for the coalition of the willing, getting them all around the table. Yes, making sure Italy get there in the end. And I think what it's doing is it's shaping Europe for, you know, to be able to defend itself. So we can't knock him too much for... There's a method in the madness, I think.
What's the point of the coalition of the willing?
Well, I think back to the NATO point, I can't see America ever leaving it.
Well, what powers do they have?
Well, they've got defence spending, and we need to make sure that, you know, if we're all sitting here while Ukraine's getting invaded and we're looking over our shoulder over the Atlantic to Donald Trump and America to risk their boots on the ground, we need to make sure that Europe as a whole, as a collective, can defend itself. And since Donald Trump's come
Europe can't defend itself.
Well, I think they need to get there.
It's lapsed on billions and billions. It's relied. It's back to the point earlier. You know, Europe has relied on the United States for simply decades. Donald Trump said in 2016, before he was going to end this, and all he's doing now is making good on his threats.
Well, well, the last time he came in, I think it was only a third that spent the target. Now it's 2/3 and rising again. So, you know, if Europe spends 5% of its GDP on defence, Europe alone will have about £1 trillion worth of military equipment and whatnot. So, you know, I think when we're facing off the likes of China, who has about 415 billion, Russia 460 billion, Europe's at about 400, you know, including the UK. I think the increased defence spending, and the US at 900, we will be in a position where US and Europe can actually stand up to the likes of China and Russia again.
Lauren, let's pick one that line of Giorgia Meloni claims she wants to make, her mission is to make the West great again. Now, that would rely upon the European Union and America getting on. At the moment, there's absolutely no prospect of that. In fact, the rhetoric is intensifying by the day. The tariffs, again, could go up in which way we do not know. Giorgia Meloni, in many senses, is the canary in the mine here. She's going over there to see if there's any softening of sentiment. I didn't detect any of that today.
Well, he has, correct me if I'm wrong here, that he has dropped the proposed 20% to 10%. The initial proposition was 20% on Europe, and it was reduced again to 10% almost, I think, overnight after the announcement. So there is a softening that has occurred at various points from Donald Trump's own activity, where he said one thing and then tried to enact it and then pulled back relatively swiftly. Donald Trump really doesn't like VAT. He views VAT as a non-tariff barrier that basically has meant that American products have gone into the European Union and funded France's welfare system for the better part of 40 years, and the United States doesn't have a comparable welfare system, and therefore basically what the US is doing is bailing out how France deals with paying off its own citizens through the state. This is not, strictly speaking, correct. And although the United States doesn't have a national sales tax, it does have state-by-state sales tax. You know, we could suddenly say, well, we're only going to deal with New Hampshire because they're the only people who don't have a state sales tax that's going to, you know, impede on our ability to export to there. But we don't do that. Sales tax, which is what VAT effectively is.
Could I just interject for one moment, if I could? Because Donald Trump was asked at the start of this briefing about a Florida State University. There's been a mass shooting incident. He said that this is horrible. We've got some live pictures on screen now. There's obviously been a rapid response of emergency services. And the latest situation, as we understand it, is that multiple people were hospitalised after reports of an active shooter at Florida State University. And police have taken a suspect into custody. According to media reports, it's very much a live crime scene, but it appears from the reports we're getting in here that the suspect has been reprimanded. He's been taken into custody, according to media reports, and we're assuming at that point that the shooter is still alive, captured at the scene. Donald Trump was asked about this, saying the situation is a horrible thing. And just to repeat that, a suspect has been taken into police custody. Multiple victims were reported in a shocking shooting at the campus. Donald Trump interjected there. He's been fully briefed on the situation, saying it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing that things like this take place. Chris, let's come back to you here. This is sure to intensify conversations, of course, around firearms in America, something which, of course, the Trump regime very pro, the right to bear arms and to use them. This is a constant thorn in his side. These mass shootings seem to be a kind of recurrent theme in America now.
Yeah, I mean, it's beggars belief that they still allow, you know, these sort of semi-automatic weapons being used. And I think when we're seeing things like this, it doesn't seem surprising, sadly, that these still occur so often. And, you know, what are the reasons why these people do it at the end of the day? You've got to be going into how are these people getting hold of these weapons if they're that psychopathic.
Of course, in Florida, of course, and the right to bear arms, the right to buy arms is, you know, pretty straightforward, Lauren. It is one of the things about the gun licensing laws in the state of Florida. Relatively easy to get hold of them.
And relatively easy to keep hold of them as well. You know, in the United Kingdom, well, in England and Wales, where policing is done separately to Scotland, you have a system whereby if there's an allegation of domestic abuse against you, if there's you are a licensed firearm owner, that firearm is taken away from you, and that can be overzealous at times, I think, in the UK. But I think it's an important thing that that we do, that we say, okay, no, I'm sorry, there is an allegation of violence against you. While we work this out, you are not allowed to have access to a firearm. The school I went to, Epsom College, not 2 years ago had an instance of the headmistress's husband shooting her and her child. Yeah. This is someone who, it looks like, had quite severe mental health issues and kept hold of a firearm and was relicensed for it and then used it. It's very rare that we have these in the UK. The reason we have the laws about removing firearms are important. The United States doesn't have similar laws state by state in many areas like that, and probably should.
OK, we'll come back to this breaking story as fresh lines emerge. Let's quickly turn, if we could, back to that meeting between Giorgia Meloni and Donald Trump. And Donald Trump there was, I think, clearly quite smitten by the Italian Premier, as Elon Musk was. He was lavishing her with praise, saying only if the Prime Minister remains the Prime Minister can Italy remain our best friend. She's doing a great job. He also was saying your Italian was beautiful. It was beautiful the way she spoke, because there are a lot of questions there from the media in Italian, and she was obviously answering in Italian. So Trump just basically doing what he does, turning on the charm when there's a female leader around.
Well, it looks like flattery's the new currency of international trade. And, you know, what I think when we're seeing Trump is putting on the warm words, right? You know, when he sits people around that he wants to do deals with, you know, makes them feel great, makes them feel wonderful, and then, you know, tells them we're going to get a great deal when everything's going to be great. And that's a negotiation tactic. But then outside of that, he can, the next day, he can be slamming down, saying Europe's terrible. We heard J.D. Vance the other day kind of talking it down, the leaked WhatsApp messages. You know, they're always trying to make sure that you can't second-guess them. But at the end of the day, if he's a deal-maker, you know he wants to get there in the end. And if you know his overarching objectives, which I think the UK government does at the moment, we can stay in line and out, not our step.
And I wonder, Lauren, if all the flattery or the batting of the eyelids from both parts mounts to anything. Because at the end of the day, you know, Donald Trump can profess his adoration for Italy, for Giorgia Meloni, but they remain a member of the European Union, and they're in lockstep on trade. Of course they are. They're in lockstep on everything. And interestingly, he was saying that Italy will have to increase its imports of liquefied natural gas. Donald Trump's looking to dump fossil fuels on the European Union to meet export targets. The EU probably won't like that. She goes in there, popular, liked, but she remains a leader of a state bloc Donald Trump simply hates.
Well, I think flattery within international affairs has always existed. If you look at the relationship between Thatcher and Reagan as the really sort of famous one that took us through the 80s, this is not a new concept between European leaders and American leaders. I don't know how far it's going to get her with Donald Trump in the longer term, because short of moving in with him, it's not going to make sure that day to day his views and his actions remain consistent. This is the least consistent man on the planet, which is presumably why he's had 3 wives so far. And it's going to be tough for her to try and continue this as she leaves, but
I don't think he's looking for a new wife.
Well, we never know.
Giorgia Meloni. I think he's looking for a deal. I think he's looking for a great deal of things. But thank you very much, Lauren and Chris. Superb. Now, still to come. Coming up next, GB News' very own Mark White, our Home and Security Editor, has revealed an astonishing exclusive footage of Sudanese migrants mocking Britain's asylum system from the comfort of plush hotels, which Kemi Badenoch today has branded a disgrace. Is she right to say that our kindness as a nation is being exploited by asylum seekers? That's next.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You have the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel. Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. Now, GBN Tonight has obtained exclusive video, and that's from Mark White, our Home and Security Editor, that reveals the sneering way in which Sudanese small boat migrants are mocking the UK's generosity in providing them with plush hotel accommodation. Now, the videos posted after the latest record influx of illegal crossings will only fuel the calls for an end to the use of hotels for asylum seekers, which is costing the British taxpayer close to the merry tune of £7 million every single day. Well, to discuss this, I'm now delighted to be joined by GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, simply breathtaking videos. You've got a multitude of them which paint a picture of a story we were led to believe, and people fleeing war zones. Mark White, it looks more like they've won the lottery. Over to you.
I think the important thing about these videos to try to get across is just the way in which they are done in tandem, really, with the people smuggling gangs who take these videos and then pump them out round the world on social media to attract even more migrants to make that journey from whichever country to northern France with a view to getting across the channel. And it also shows the increase in those who are coming from Sudan. We can show you the first video, which is a video that was taken on board a boat just recently in the last few days, and it shows the first person speaking is from Sudan. It pans round a number of others from Sudan and from South Sudan. You can see both flags are represented on the video that's been posted. Well, our contact who tracks these migrants right from their source countries through to northern France and across the Channel has been following these groups. And on that particular boat was one migrant from Sudan, the Republic of Sudan, who posted just hours, it seems, after getting into his hotel, a video where he's clearly quite delighted to be there. Take a look for yourselves.
باو باو المكانات في الزيتون تصحى يا ببر خوزي جو عايشين جونجو
Well, I think quite aside from his lip syncing and dancing skills, the other thing to note here is clearly he's in quite a nice hotel room. This video is effectively saying, come here too. It's being pumped out by the criminal gangs, as I say, around the world. Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, showed that very video to the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, a little earlier.
Can I show this video of a newly arrived Sudanese man who arrived in the past few days? He's dancing around a rather smart hotel room.
المكانات في الزيتون تصحى يببر خوز جو عايشين جونجو ما بنشرب بونجو لكن نلعب أما الدونجو.
It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. That is not what the asylum system is there for. It is not there so that economic migrants from all over the world can come in and live off the British state. Taxpayers in this country, hard-working men and women, are paying for that. That is not right, and Keir Starmer needs to get a grip.
As we say, this was just one of multiple videos that have been posted in the last week by those who recently arrived. Take a look at another Sudanese migrant.
انت كنت تواسي وانت كنت معايا ديما تو وليت نخاف حتى كيف نبوح بكليمة اسم نخون لي خلى اولاد نضاف تعيش يتيمة واللي مخو حكيله راجل تحكم فيه.
And you can see the video just panning round there to show he's in his hotel room as well. Well, on the other side of the channel, our sources telling us thousands of migrants are now waiting to come across the channel for better weather conditions. We had 210 who came across today, but earlier in the week, those who are going to the beaches in Calais and in Dunkirk in some instances are being aided by the fact that there are free bus services for them. Take a look at this next video that shows the migrants on a free bus service to Dunkirk, to the beach there, and then on board the boat. So from bus to boat, and of course they are posting their videos all the way along that route. And just on Tuesday, when we had that record day of 705 migrants crossing from France, another video posted from one of those boats that made it. Take a look. Now that boat there was absolutely packed, and what was interesting about that video is you could see the emojis on the screen there, a British flag, a French flag, but also a ninja warrior emoji. Now that is important because that is the emblem that the people smuggling gangs use. So that shows this video has been taken and then pumped out by the criminal gangs. Then just today, as I say, 210 crossed the channel again, and even while they're crossing, they're sending out live video posts that are picked up by the criminal gangs.
قربتها باصي فعلا درس ضدع شيطاني واغا شرف غني وسطايل القراني.
So a perfect day really out in the channel for these crossings, and you saw there one of the French warships that was escorting that migrant boat across the channel. And I think the important thing to get across in talking about the videos that are being posted by the migrants is what often happens is they get a discount on the price of their ticket on these small boats if they agree to post videos that the people smuggling gangs can then use as a marketing ploy to get more migrants to come. The British government have been warning of this for quite some time. They've been trying to get social media companies to be more active in taking these videos down, but it's a next to impossible task because these videos popping up all of the time.
Mark White, it's an astonishing collage of videos, excellent reporting on your behalf, and simply jaw-dropping that this is going on under the watch of a government which promised to smash the gangs. Mark, the gangs are laughing all the way to the bank. Mark White, the best in the business, a superb report today. Thank you very, very much for bringing that to us today on GB News. Let's get some reaction now from my panel in the studio in Westminster. I'm joined by the former Conservative advisor, Lauren McAvert, and also Labour Party activist, Chris Worrell. Chris, let's start with you. This is absurd. This is a flagrant violation of our borders, of our finances. We're sold the story that these are people fleeing war zones. Chris, that looked like a package tour.
Well, I mean, maybe Nigel Farage should have put those videos or pictures on the side of his bus. I mean, if he put no deportation agreement on the side of a bus for voting Brexit, do you think people would have voted Brexit? If he put open border experiment on the side of a bus, do you think people would have voted Brexit?
What's that got to do with it?
Well, that's why they're all here.
Talk about why these blokes...
Why are they coming over?
Who are... Now, 120 million quid went to Sudan this week from David Lammy because there's a war there. All the military-aged men are coming to Britain on a dinghy.
Yeah, but why are they coming here? We have no deportation agreement from when we withdrew from the EU, thanks to Brexit. So if we
You're blaming Brexit for this?
Yeah, 100%. That's why those smuggling gangs are sending them over. They know you can't deport them, so off you go.
You're blaming Brexit for those videos there. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm very serious.
That's because of Brexit?
Yes, so because we have no deportation agreement. That's why they can get sent over without having to be sent back.
So why are we seeing the same anarchy going towards Italy? Why are we saying the Mediterranean is the same?
Well,
in fact, it's not, because Giorgia Meloni, that woman who was in the White House a moment ago, is turning boats back. They're sending them back to Tunisia and to Libya. They're in the European Union. They're in the European Court of Human Rights. We're not. We're standing by and mopping this up every day.
If we were in the European Union, we might be able to send them back because we had
Italy didn't Brexit.
Yeah, sorry, Dublin Agreement allowed us to send them back where they came from, which is France. And the EU-wide resettlement scheme we could send to Albania and Turkey. That's gone under Brexit. So I'd love it if Nigel Farage or the Tory party had put that on the side of a bus, because when you had a 52% to 48% voting to remain, you would have avoided all of that.
This was going on before Brexit. Well, it's got much worse since.
Oh, it has, yes.
It was small lorries before small. It was lorries before small boats. You can't seriously sit here, Chris, and say that these shenanigans in the Channel are because of Brexit and because of Nigel Farage and because of the Dublin Agreement.
Look at the date of the TCA, the withdrawal agreement, which had no deportation agreement. The smuggling gangs are selling the migrants. We can send you over there and they can't send you back. That is the biggest incentive for smuggling gangs. And its proof is in the pudding with these adverts for why Brexit was an absolute disaster.
Lauren, follow that. It's all about Brexit. It's all about Farage.
Chris is splitting hairs slightly on the definition of deportation here. He's saying we can't deport them back to France. We could elect to deport them basically anywhere else, and that's what the Rwanda scheme was looking to do. And I remember a really interesting piece of reporting that came out when the Rwanda scheme was first announced.
Two people got flown out.
In The Guardian, there was. I agree it didn't work, but the theory, the sort of the disincentive theory, was not a bad one. There was a Guardian journalist who went down. Let me finish. There was a Guardian journalist who went down to the coast and interviewed migrants getting off boats and said, if this was introduced tomorrow and you were going to be sent back to Rwanda instead of... the two he spoke to were from Sudan and Eritrea. And the Guardian journalist said, if you were to be sent back to Rwanda, would you have come? And they said, no, if we were going to be sent back to Africa, we wouldn't have come. There was a disincentive to a scheme like that, and it not going through has resulted in there being an incentive to come, because when they come here, we treat them well and we treat them humanely, and perhaps we shouldn't be doing that, but we do. And a large portion of this is in relation to our membership of the European Convention on Human Rights, which means we can't send anybody back. And it's exactly the same problem we had with Somali pirates in the Gulf of Aden 20 years ago.
Germany is a member of the European Union and a member of the European Convention on Human Rights. They're deporting Afghans back to the Taliban.
They have a different legal system to us.
Poland is a member of both. They have a different
legal system to us. They are allowed to interpret ECHR differently to how the common legal system is allowed to interpret it. It's why we always had a problem with the European Union legal system.
I don't believe that's true. We could. I speak to human rights lawyers all the time time on the show, and they say if we had the cojones to do what Italy's doing, to do what Germany is doing, to do what Poland is doing, then we could boot these people out. But we haven't got the politicians.
We would need fundamental overhaul of the legal system, which we haven't done yet. It's not because of Brexit.
It is. We've brought in the ECHR into our Human Rights Act. The fact is like, why would you even talk about sending stuff to Rwanda? It's quicker, cheaper to send it to France. We had that all before. It's been an absolute disaster. That is an advert for
Prior to
Brexit
Brexit,
failed.
We were not allowed to send every person who came here on a boat back to France.
If they're a failed asylum seeker, yeah.
OK, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Lauren and Chris. There you go. Learn something every day. It's all because of Brexit. Now, still to come on tonight's show, elites, police units investigating organised crime and even terrorists have let their hair down with a workplace Easter egg hunt. And the kids aren't even invited. Seriously. Well, Britain's Bobbies fiddling while Rome burns. They should be catching jihadists. Instead, they're out hunting Easter eggs. That's next.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading to southern Europe for some holiday sun, well, there is still some changeable weather around. There's a front pushing its way in across parts of Portugal and into western Spain, also affecting Madeira and later the Canary Islands. Then there's also going to be a fair bit of showery rain affecting Italy and into parts of Greece as well. But actually, as we go through the weekend across western areas, I'm expecting a bit more dry and at times sunny weather in which it should feel pleasantly warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the bank holiday, there is going to be some rain at times, particularly across western areas, with a rainfall warning issued for Friday night into Saturday. But actually, Easter Sunday looks largely dry and bright, and it should be fairly clear this evening. That's before low pressure moves its way in from the west, eventually dragging in some cloud and rain, particularly across parts of Devon and Cornwall, parts of Wales and Northern Ireland by the time we reach the morning. But elsewhere, there'll be a mix of cloud and clearer skies, and where we see the clear skies stick around, temperatures soon dipping away, may even see some rural frost, some mist and fog by the time we reach the morning. So feeling chillier here, but where we see the cloud outbreaks of rain, it's going to be a slightly milder night to come. Now, as we head into Good Friday, it's going to be quite a wet start across Northern Ireland, parts of Wales, Devon and Cornwall. Some quite heavy outbreaks of rain at times, particularly across high ground. So quite a wet start, Devon, Cornwall, parts of Wales, also Northern Ireland. It could be fairly blustery at times too under the cloud and rain. But elsewhere across northern parts of England, parts of Scotland, largely dry. Just a few showers perhaps skirting the far Northern Isles. Shetland and Orkney, for example, could see the odd shower as we head through the morning. And then eventually we'll see more and more of this cloud and rain shift its way northeastward. Still come quite persistent outbreaks of rain across hilly areas of Devon and Cornwall, parts of Wales, but elsewhere, central areas, parts of the southeast, particularly East Anglia, should see a largely dry day, even some sunny spells as we head through into the afternoon. And it's fairly mild still across the southeast, highs of around 18 degrees, but temperatures struggling a little more under the cloud and rain. So a rainfall warning still issued for the first part of Saturday across Devon and Cornwall. We'll see some quite heavy outbreaks of rain through the morning, but any rain soon through the day largely fizzling away, and it should be relatively dry by the time we reach the afternoon, though there could be a fair amount of clouds still. Sunday looks the best day in terms of dry weather and sunnier outbreaks, and fairly good temperatures too, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunshine.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back now. One of Britain's most iconic restaurants, the Michelin-starred Veeraswamy, which has served everyone from the Mahatma Gandhi to Audrey Hepburn and even King Charles, when he was still the Prince of Wales, is now facing eviction from its historic Regent Street home. Why? Because the Crown Estate says it needs the building back for refurbishment. Well, I'm joined now by the co-owner of the restaurant, Ranjit Mathrani. Ranjit, welcome to the show. You're being booted out by the Crown Estate. What's going on?
Well, the answer is I don't know, because they keep on giving different reasons on different occasions with one simple objective, to get us out of the premises. And the irony is that 1 year before they decided not to terminate our lease, they actually invited us to take over more space on the first floor of the restaurant. And then they dramatically changed their mind. I'm sorry about the background noise, I'm the evidence. They dramatically changed their mind after a blocked drain, which they blamed on us, which wiped out their electrics. And they claim they needed space, 11 square meters of the space for their entrance. On other occasions, they claim they need the space in order to do the refurbishment works. Neither of those arguments are very convincing. They could have a reception space if they wanted to on the first floor, and they could work around us, as many landlords have done, in refurbishing the offices.
So, Ranjit, if I may interject, Ranjit, if I may interject, we don't have a great deal of time left. Ostensibly, they're trying to hike up your rent, and you think they're using a backdoor method of doing so to get you out. You're an institution in London.
We are indeed an institution. Not only that, we are a living institution. You know, we were invited to cater for the Queen on 2 occasions, but in Paris, she in fact agreed to have dinner with us before COVID struck as well. We've had a lineage there. We are in London, British in India, Indian food in Britain, gastronomy, Michelin star for our 10 years. And I think they take a view, quite frankly, that after the drainage blockage occurred, which they unfairly blamed on us, that a restaurant there was more trouble than it was worth.
Okay, we have to leave it there, I'm afraid. I had to call time on this. Hope you curry some favour with the Crown Estate. Ranjit Mathrani, thank you very much for joining us on the show. And a spokeswoman for the Crown Estate said this: we need to carry out a comprehensive refurbishment of Victory House. Now, due to the limited options available in this listed building, we need to remove the entrance to the restaurant, which means we'll not be able to offer Veeraswamy an extension when their lease expires. Now then, it is a fantastic restaurant. I've been to it before, but to celebrate Easter, Domino's, the pizza joint, has sent us an egg with a different flavour, garlic and herbs. What's this? It's a garlic and herb Easter egg. This is a bit of random TV. Here you go, have a little bosh of that. Have a bit of Easter egg, fellas. There you go, Matt Goodwin's here, have a bit of that.
Thank you very much.
I like it. Oh. Garlic and herb Easter egg, not at all a plug for Domino's.
I can't taste any garlic.
They didn't even make it in the shape of a garlic bulb. They should have done.
Matt Goodwin is on next. You've got 45 seconds. Get that Easter egg out, you gob. What's on your show? Matt Goodwin, State of the Nation, is up next.
All right, well, bombshell, IMF report. Immigration is bad for wages for the working class in the West. Who would have thought? We're going to be talking about this with pro-immigration activist, academic John Portes. And we've got the women who have been leading that historic fight to defend women's rights, to get that legal definition of what is a woman. They are coming onto the show tonight to tell us about that. Now, neither of us need to worry about this, but is 70 the new 50? We've got a demographer coming into the studio to tell us about where all of this demographic crisis in Britain is going to take us.
We've got a little there. Matt Goodwin, State of the Nation, is up next. Still got some Easter egg in his gob. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Chris. Thanks to you. And back tomorrow, 3 till 6. State of the Nation is up next.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky-roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 6 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good evening, you're watching State of the Nation tonight on GB News with me, Matt Goodwin. On tonight's show, a shocking new report shatters the Liberal consensus on immigration, but has confirmed what the forgotten majority knew to be true all along, that mass immigration is